My name is Stanley Rameau, founder of Renovest, and I am your moderator today. So, Renovest is a marketplace for online communities that teach financial literacy, investing, and building businesses. And you can kind of view it as the app store for chat rooms, but we have an amazing panel today that I want to introduce. Currently, to the left of me, we have Mark Zarella, who is the head of revenue and partnerships at Computer Vault. We also have Derek Thomas, founder of Incremental Developers. And lastly, we have Suzanne Montar, founder of Branding Brand. And so as we begin talking about crafting a sales pitch that sticks or lands, I think it's really important to address, who our customer is. I'm sure we have a lot of individuals in the room who are founders, investors, maybe direct selling positions at a company. And so the first question I want to ask our panelists today is talk a little bit about what you do from your company and who your direct customer is and why should they actually even work with you in the first place.
You go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, Mark Zarella. So I'm the head of revenue and partnerships at Computer Vault, as Stanley had mentioned. So Computer Vault's a virtual infrastructure product. And what that means is we help enterprise level customers make their data centers more efficient, as well as make their workforce more productive. We have an ability to deliver virtual desktops, virtual servers, and cybersecurity. So we allow workers to work from anywhere with a secure connection to their corporate resources.
And Derek, we'll just have you follow through after that.
Sure. It's Derek Thomas, Incremental Developers. We are a small-scale real estate development firm based out of Salem, Mass. A lot of our work is either here in the city of Boston or the North Shore. And talking about our customers.
Yeah.
It's kind of two sides of the sword of that for me. My general partners, LPs, investors in the real estate side of things. And then obviously our end user is a developer of multifamily residential. Our customer is who's going to end up living in these homes and units that we develop.
Thanks.
Perfect.
So my name is Susan Munter. I just want to take a step back and say my pitch experience, I have 3 different pitch experiences. And as a team, we had been talking about how pitching happens in so many different ways now. My pitch experience is more on the formal side. So when I was with large agencies, Hill Holiday, Digitas, large scale group projects that end up pitching about 3 to 5 million. And then my second experience is having my own business pitching for clients. And then the third is I run an advertising agency and we work with founders, CEOs to create and pitch in front of investors or for new products. I'm going to step into an impromptu pitch, and I want to see if you guys can catch my approach here. So I own Branding Band. Branding Band specializes in advertising and launching startup brands. The biggest mistake I have seen as I do advertising for all of you all is how little resources you put against your name, choosing your name. And we spend a lot of time with our clients naming. It is the most important marketing asset that you have, and it is the most under-resourced asset that I see entrepreneurs using. So please, please, please don't name your company after your cat or your dog. Maybe we can be a little bit more on point than that. Branding Band has, to this extent, we've launched 8 startup brands in 8 years. Full stop. That's why you want to work with us. Anybody want to tell me about my pitch? What were the key aspects there? What? A bit too long. Thank you for that. Oh, that's great. What part would you cut?
I would go directly to maybe short story on one of the brands you have helped.
Okay, actually, you know what? I don't want to get into sorry, I don't want to get into, that wasn't the point of this. No, my apologies, I took it in the wrong direction. Well,
Well,
why don't we go back to?
yeah, let's talk about in regards to, I want to make this more storytelling. So let's actually talk about when you actually crafted a pitch that actually went well. So Derek, maybe you want to jump into that situation.
Susan, I was sold.
You're the best, man.
Yeah, I'm going to sign
I got a
up.
card.
Sure. Take that. We're using the term, right, pitch, right, in sales and closing and objections, and
course.
it's different for everybody, right? So for me, again, on the real estate side of things, a lot of my pitching. So, and I'll, like you did, step back and reframe this. One of my first jobs in sales was door to door. Selling like cable in Long Island in my early 20s. I got recruited here out of Boston, and a few years later ended up sort of running a market in Long Island. And that is a much different pitch and delivery than probably what most folks in here are looking to get out of it, which is 100 to 150 doors a day.
Right.
Myself and our reps are knocking on doors, getting 147 no's to get maybe 3 yeses. Now, I may pitch an investor or somebody who's selling a piece of real estate once a month, something like that. So, one of my more successful ones is one of our earlier developments in Salem, which is, just a family, 2 or 3 guys that, inherited a home and wanted to get rid of it. And as this sort of deal starts falling apart, my sort of pitch ends up being approaching them, directly instead of through the lawyers and through the brokers, and building rapport with them, trying to uncover what are their needs, what are their wants, what are their desires, what are they trying to get out of it. It's not always just money. It's not always just a number to it. So that would have been one of my more successful ones, and it was because we were able to talk directly to them and find out that, yeah, it was money, but they wanted that money soon, right? So as a developer, we're able to figure out, and most folks that are, whether you have a small business or you're pitching a VC, you have to be creative, right? And so we have a thing called optionality, right? And with options, you are able to pay premiums. So, and that's really solved our problem. We figured out, okay, yeah, they want money, they want more money, but what I want is time. I want the ability to have entitlements and permits. So through this optionality agreement that we were able to figure out was getting them some money and getting me more time, and everybody won. So that's, again, as far as a pitch goes for me, it's more, it's less formal, right? It's less in the world of raising money and the VC side of stuff. It's here's who we are, here's what we're going to do with this project, and here's what's in it for you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of individuals think that pitching is a skill, and you started with your first experience as far as knocking on 150 doors. I had my first internship was the same thing, selling office supplies for Quill, knocking on 150 doors in rain or shine. And so from a mental toughness standpoint, how did that prepare you to, doing the deals that you're doing now? Because we talked about before, they're in the millions kind of right now.
I'll
right?
just follow up real quick and then pass it off. But hearing no, right, 100 times a day, that no is also different for everybody. And no doesn't mean, no, I don't like you. No, I don't like the product. No, it's not the right time for me. It can mean hundreds of different things. So it's good to get those no's early on, whether it's in your career or in the new business or the product. Get out there and again, pitch. There's no right or wrong. It's through repetition. And
Absolutely.
hearing no is a good thing. Every no leads to the next yes, I suppose, right?
Yeah, for sure. Mark.
Yeah, I'd just like to say something. So hearing Susan's pitch, see, I don't think it was too long, and I'll tell you why. The name of this is Startup Boston, so it's startups. So this is your target audience, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah.
Startups, exactly.
Yeah.
So my target audience is large enterprise size corporations, 1,000 employees, 10,000 employees. So I kept mine very short and sweet because There's an old saying, and I'm going to date myself, by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers guitarist: don't bore us, play the chorus. Stick to the part of the song that people know. Now, a lot of you here know Susan's entire song because you're looking for those services. So I absolutely agree. You wanted to keep going there. Now, that song wasn't the gentleman's in the back's taste, which is fine. We all don't love Taylor Swift. But, well, maybe we all do.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm actually a Swiftie, so I don't know.
so
This is over. I'm sorry.
So, when you're talking about, crafting a sales pitch that resulted in, what you wanted, you got to know the audience that you're pitching to. I would bore everyone's mind if I started talking about, data centers and one-use servers and hyper-converged infrastructure. Keep it short. What might resonate with you? Work from home. We can work from anywhere. Cybersecurity. So don't ever feel you're going too long if you know the audience you're talking about. And believe me, their faces will tell you if you're going too long. Their eyes will glaze over. So I just wanted to mention that. It's knowing your audience, playing to that audience, and either getting out if it's not the right audience or engaging if it is.
Yeah, Mark, and speak a little bit more in regards to maybe some pitches that haven't, been delivered to your actual customer and you wasn't able to actually close the deal.
Sure.
And how you iterated from that.
I'll even give you one where we did it to a target customer and didn't close the deal. Everyone likes to talk about their successes, but I'm going to tell you about one of our failures. So I went into a presentation with a very large insurance company. Would have been a tremendous deal for us, over 5,000 employees. We sell our product by an annual seat license, 1-to-1 versus by number of employee. Big deal. So I'm sitting here and I say, I know this. I know our product. I know enough about technology. I'm meeting with the CTO. Well, right out of the gate, slide one, the CTO starts asking me high-level technical questions. And I have a choice here. I can either fumble through it, or I can say, that's a great question. Let me get some answers for you. Well, I chose to act like I knew what I was talking about.
We all do that.
Which was a big mistake, especially when you're dealing with someone who's playing, quote unquote, stump the master. They want to better you on your own product line, better you on your own technology. So we fumble that whole presentation. Now, what I learned from that is make sure you just say, that's a great question. Let me get back to you, or bring in a resource that may be better equipped to answer those questions. Once again, it just goes back to knowing your audience.
Great.
Can I just,
please.
I guess, follow up on that and maybe question back to you?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the points I was thinking about is sort of like being your authentic self, right? And so in that scenario, you and your authentic self, is it would it have been to try and fake it till you make it and get through it? Or I don't know that question. I'll get back. What for you?
I think it is some of it could be ego. Some of it could be, I know my product better than anyone. I can handle anything. Some of it may be, and this is a little different if you're a founder, trying to impress your boss or trying to impress a client with your knowledge. That saying you don't know something might make the client think, well, I'm not going to do business with this person. They can't even talk about their own products. You can't anticipate every question. You have your baseline problems that your products sell, but there's always another problem that you haven't thought about that your product might solve. So that's what I would get at.
And again, it's different in different pitching cultures, but in the cultures that I pitch in, the person that you want to pitch is not in the room. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The person that you want to pitch is not in the room, which leaves the question, so Susan, who is in the room, right? Who am I talking to? You're talking to the messenger. You're talking to the messenger who has to be interested enough in what you're saying, believe enough that you're going to actually solve their problem. You are going to somehow make them look good because they're going to take your message. They're going to take your pitch to their CEO, to their board of directors, to their chief scientific officer. And they have to be able to remember well enough what you said and not just remember it, but put it into their words so that they can tell it convincingly and feel good enough about what you're presenting, so that, because now their skin is in the game, right? Their credibility is a little bit on the line. Yes, CEO, I think it's worth you taking 15 minutes out of your ridiculously busy day to meet with this group. And I think that's a really important shift in orientation, because it changes how we put a pitch together, and it changes the main points that we deliver, and it changes who we include in the room.
Yeah, Susan, I think that's a great point, and it leads into, I think, a really important process when it comes to perfecting and landing a pitch is the preparation part of it, right? And so, how do you guys typically, prepare for a pitch? Whether, Mark, in your instance, you're developing a team to be able to pitch to the best of their abilities, compared to Derek and Susan, you're pitching yourself. And so, how do you go about pitching and the preparation for it? Maybe Mark, you want to take on that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's it's putting yourself in a position to succeed. So as much prep work as you can possibly do about who you're going to be pitching to. Now, that's not always possible. You're at a networking event, you need your elevator pitch or what have you. But that's when you can determine really quickly if that's the right audience or not. But if this is a prearranged, let's call it a presentation more so than a pitch. How much research can you do? How much digging can you do? How much prep work did you do into that call? Did somebody set up the call for you that's going to give you that information? So, I mean, a lot of this is elementary. But the thing is, when you're in the moment, it kind of it just seeps out of your brain, and you kind of forget everything that you already know. It's why quarterbacks still have the plays on their arms during the game. So that's what I would say, is how much preparation can you do?
Yeah, Derek?
Yeah. And I hate to keep going back to the door-to-door world, but again, it's what's was drilled into me at an early age, and everybody can probably imagine it and picture it, door-to-door with the teams and the sales training. You have new reps stand up in front of the room, in front of a fake door, and go through their pitch. Oh, you messed up, start again. Oh, you messed up, start again, and start throwing obstacles at them. And it's very rote, elementary process. Now, right, in the real world, the way that it works is, what popped into my mind when you were talking is it's kind of it's been a while since I've been in school, but jamming for a test the morning of, I guess, doesn't really work.
Year, right?
Yeah. it's you either know the subject matter or you don't, So for me, again, the preparation side of stuff is it's knowing my business. I read a lot on real estate and the economy and real estate development and sales books and that type of stuff. So it's continual, constant education and reading things that are outside of your comfort zone, in being able to, again, sort of adapt for every pitch that you have.
So at Branding Bam, we do have, I don't want to call it a formula, but we do have kind of a guideline for how we put pitches together. And a question we always get is, how much technical information do I need to include? I want that gives me credibility, all that technical information or the detailed data. We work with a lot with biotechs, and it's very complex, very difficult to digest medical information, and the people investing do not have a science background necessarily. So one thing I encourage everybody to do is to have what I call the money slide. And the money slide is the slide where you put all of that highly difficult, very dense information, so that everybody that you're pitching to sees that you have it and sees that you know it, and that later they know they can come back to you and ask you more about it and go more in depth. But you're not boring the entire audience. It's not even boring. They just can't follow you. The rest of the audience knows it's there, and that gives them a certain comfort level. But you don't have to go into all of that detail throughout your entire pitch, because you're just going to lose people, which I'm sure you already know.
Perfect. And I feel like majority of the pitching that I think you all have been doing within your careers might have been more in person, right? I think, especially after COVID happened, it transitioned in regards to different ways in which we would have to approach pitching from a virtual standpoint. So has that transition affected how you deliver your pitch, land your pitch from virtual compared to in person?
Well, we deal nationally and sometimes internationally. So, even prior to COVID, 90+% of our presentations were virtual. They're a lot easier now with Zoom, and you can actually see the person on the other end. Before, when you would just kind of emailing them slides and hoping they were following along with you.
Right.
So I'm not really equipped to answer that because we've always kind of done them virtually. And I find it very easy to do it that way. You can still have a captive audience virtually if you're sharing your screen. You can always tell by the questions if they're asking any questions. I always say just interrupt me. Don't wait till the end for the questions. Let's have a conversation instead of just standing up and talking through a PowerPoint.
Yeah. Go.
Okay, I'll go.
Go ahead.
Please, you good with that?
Yeah.
So we work with a lot of Chinese companies. So companies that are based in China, they're launching in China and in the US, sometimes the US first and then China, sometimes China, then US. And I guess I just wanted to add the human aspect of virtual, which is, they're exactly opposite time frame, right? So they're going to bed as we're waking up, right? So being able to cross the divide, I guess, by saying, oh my God, you just went to the gym and it's 10 o'clock at night for you. And right, understanding your audience in that way and reaching out to those teams and trying to bring a human element to some of these Zoom conversations, I think really goes a long way. The fact that we even knew what time it was in China with a prospect was what got us the job. I mean, they hadn't talked to anybody who knew how to work across time zones and across cultures, because there are obviously some cultural differences.
For us, as a small scale real estate developer, you can imagine that I do a lot of the permitting and entitlement process myself with our architects and certainly our land use attorneys sometimes. But pre-COVID, you are in front of a zoning board of appeals or a city council, and just like this, in front of the hot mic, making my pitch to them as to why something should be allowed. During COVID and still post-COVID, a lot of them, even now by statute and state law, are allowed to do them remotely. So just like sort of in a negotiation, it's preferable that you're face-to-face with that person so you can see the reaction and the feedback and real-time feedback from the audience or whoever you're talking to or pitching. So with Zoom in the digital side of things, can I go back to doing it and having to do it a lot? You're in front of a computer. How can I work the program Zoom and see all the faces on the screen at the same time? Is somebody repulsed at the proposition that I'm making or what we should do? So that's one big thing that's changed for us in our pitch to, again, the public and to councils and zoning boards about how we deal with them. It's not a rote, process and the same every time. We have to be able to know our product and our process and what we're doing inside and out and be able to answer questions as they come up. So again, repetition, doing it is kind of the key for us, whether it's in person or digital.
I love what you just said, because, really having somebody on your team who is paying attention to, ooh, she just sat way back, or to that being repulsed or whatever it is. You lose so many cues, right? When you're on Zoom than you would have in live setting, that to designate someone who is not talking and is just watching for those little cues, because that's all you've got, right? You've got to mind what you have. So I really like that you said
and that's
that.
a good one too. Again, I remember back to our door-to-door days. You always seem to have done better during the day when you were working with a partner, because people learn differently and hear differently and react differently. Can I just ask real quick, I guess, since everybody's looking at me now, maybe show of hands, who here is actually in like an outbound sales pitching a product on a day-to-day, daily basis? Half, a little more than half. And then who else is more like maybe on the sales and marketing stuff inbound that is taking questions and then responding to? Okay, third, a bit less. Yeah, just curious about that as far as who's in here.
Yeah, for sure. And then based off of it, seems like a lot of individuals are in direct selling positions. Let's talk about in regards to like sales cycle and how that might impact when you close or land a pitch compared to it might take a little bit longer from you imagined.
Our sales cycles are very long, as you can imagine, with the size of the customer and the complexity of the product that we have. So when we go into meetings and pitches and presentations, we have a little bit different of a goal than if you're selling a consumer product or you're selling an a specific service, talking to a founder or an owner. So our main focus, at least at the beginning of the sales cycle, is get the next meeting. So you want to get the next meeting and keep progressing and keep answering questions and keep going. Can't do it all in the 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So our sales cycles are 3 months, 6 months, sometimes a year, depending upon budgets. So we're constantly just trying to get the next meeting. If they keep giving you meetings, they're interested. They keep bringing in other stakeholders. They move you up the chain. Our ultimate decision is typically made by a CIO or a CFO. Sometimes you start off at the top and sometimes you don't. So like I said, our focus is the next meeting. And then when we have quote unquote the final meeting, they're going to go away to make their decision, look at budgets, look at operations, look at that. So, I don't know if your businesses are similar or if it's more of a direct, shorter sales cycle.
No, for our clients, it's about that. It's about the same sales cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, same for me.
There we go.
The point is, we may get, if we don't have a project, I may pitch the owner or an investor in a project once or twice a month, and then once we kick off on something, that's it. I'm not on the phone, outbound or inbound every day. It's few and far between.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get to questions, the point of a pitch is to actually close, right? And so, what tactics and strategies have you learned throughout your journey to be able to, get the results that you want for yourself as founders or for you and your team?
Sure. I mean, it comes down to one thing: solving the problem that the customer has. If your product can solve the problem, you should be a contender to solve that problem. If they don't have the problem that your product solves, fire the prospect. People don't like to hear that. They don't want to walk away, but I have people on my sales team who keep coming back every meeting with their pipeline, and the same names have been on there for 2 years. And, it's okay to walk. It sounds counterintuitive, but your time is too valuable to keep cranking away at a prospect that your product is not going to solve their problem.
Great point.
So I find it's very different industries are different. The pitch culture is different. Something that we've done with some of our clients where it's appropriate is we've actually created a takeaway for people to have in the audience. Again, these are probably more scientific, technical clients, and it takes some of the pressure off the pitch person to have some of the more detailed information in a giveaway, or in some. We've done oversized postcards, something that they're not going to throw immediately into the trash. That it's got the contact information. It's got information about key takeaways. We've had some good success with that.
You have to ask for the sale, right? To closes, right? If you're in sales, there's dozens of different types of closes and closing techniques and methods, and you have to ask for the sale. Kind of what you were alluding to. It's like everybody likes to buy, nobody likes to be sold. So if you're talking to somebody that's not they have no use for your product, no need for it, on to the next. And at the end of the day, whatever you call it, a close, or you're looking for a signature on a sale, you have to ask for it at some point. And yeah, that's it for me. You got to ask.
I mean, it's a tough racket, as they said in Glengarry Glen Ross. It's very challenging, obviously, as you've all found out, as you're building your businesses, as you're making your outbound calls. Even inbound calls can sometimes be challenging. We used to have something similar to it, knocking on doors. We used to do what was called 5 after 5. Call 5 customers after 5 o'clock, because chances are, back in those days, there was, the gatekeepers weren't going to answer the phone. We're a lot different now. The 300 dials a week, 100 dials a day type of model. If you're calling corporations, there's phone systems. There's some people don't even have a phone on their desk. So that's another thing I'd like to get at. How do you even get to the point to have a pitch? And figuring out the problem that your product is going to solve, and then getting your research done. Our biggest competitor is a company called Citrix. They were just purchased by a private equity firm. They're cutting out all of their resellers, which is how we go to market. So those resellers are very frustrated. They're having a lot of challenges. They're worried about losing revenue. So what's our pitch to them? You're having trouble with your current vendors. We have a product that's, superior, less price, the usual stuff. Are you interested in talking? Yes or no? Simple question. As you said, ask for it. Yes or no. If they say yes, that's when you can start doing due diligence. If they say no, just move on to the next one.
So
Okay.
you
follow up.
Please go ahead.
From one thing you said, again, I want to poll the audience here. Who got the Glengarry Glen Ross reference? By show of hands.
I'm old. Sorry.
That's okay. And my point, and that's, again, it was like 6 people. And that's like a pillar, right, of like old school sales tactics, right? So
absolutely.
Sticking on my
sexy tools to own.
well, I don't have that.
If anyone wants,
Tool.
I'll give you my top 5 sales movies after.
Yeah. So
Happy to tell you.
to my point of like the education side of stuff, getting outside, right? Wolf of Wall Street. What's the other one? A Boiler Room. Sort of ties in with Wolf. These are like sales pitchy shows and movies. On that side of things, again, the education side of stuff, reading. If you're new in the business, you're going to hear about this gentleman, Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book 70, 80 years ago, How to Influence and Then Influence People. If you haven't read that or don't have it or haven't read it 9 times, pick it up, get that one. Anything by Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. And I guess one that I read recently, a local woman here, Dr. Mimi Goss. She's at the Harvard Business School. She wrote a book called what's your one line? And getting your point across in an age of short attention spans. So that's a really good book. It's an easy read. And again, it will get you, it's not about your elevator pitch or your sales pitch. It's if you have to talk about it in 30 seconds, what is it? Who are you? What's your product?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, pick up the book.
I want to offer an anecdote actually to all of that. And this is what I find helps sustain me when I'm pitching. And that is to claim the higher ground. So the higher ground is we were working with Johnson & Johnson. We're pitching Johnson & Johnson. They at the time had a new treatment for diabetes. Diabetes afflicts 1 in 7 people in the United States. It's horrific. And the pitch was not based on winning Johnson & Johnson. The pitch was based on conquering diabetes for the world. How do we as an agency conquer diabetes for the world? And Johnson & Johnson, let's do it together, right? And then the pitch, at least for me, it becomes much easier. Pitching very often feels like an us versus them, zero-sum game. And that, for me personally, that wears me out. And I don't have as much success that way. So I'm just wanted to offer a different paradigm as you think about your own pitching.
Perfect. Let's open it up to the audience for any questions. Yeah.
Questions?
Thanks. I was hoping you could elaborate. You mentioned about, get to the next meeting.
Yep.
And if you could elaborate a little more on the tactics and tips.
Sure. I mean, put it simply, one of my major tactics is let me get that answer for you. You have your calendar, let's book a call. I'll bring in my sales engineer. I mean, it sounds corny, even if that's one thing I learned from that meeting where I tried to answer everything. Sometimes I hold back answers that I know to get that next meeting. They don't know if I know them or not. And as a sales guy, which is I am, I've been part of founding teams, but I've always been on the sales side of it. Customers don't always believe the sales guy. You need undercoating on the car that you're about to buy. Is that real? Who knows? So if you can bring in other resources who you're setting up as a subject matter expert, now they want to talk to that person. They want that next meeting because they're like, oh, that guy's going to really tell me what's going on. This sales guy is just saying whatever he needs to say. So that's and turn off the cameras. That's my number one tactic.
But also, like I said, ask for the sale. If you don't need that next meeting because you're able to close this product or get them signed up, it saves everybody a bit of time and effort and headache.
Thank you for the insights. Shazab Lada here. Question around prep, right? Knowing your attendees, ensuring that you have your pitch down, all that stuff, so you don't even need it, right? But I also find like an immersive experience really helpful if you're taking a consultative approach. So forget the slide deck, just go with a mural, right? And walk through that mural. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. I love conversations as opposed to presentations. I'm going to trademark that. That's a pretty good one. Absolutely. And a lot of times I'll have the slide deck up and running, but like I said, I'll just start asking questions of that customer. And then maybe I'll go to the slide that we're talking about rather than just say, here's slide 1, here's slide 2, because engagement, you're absolutely right. It's all about engagement. If they're engaged with you, they're interested. If they're not engaged and they're just sitting there listening to you, like you're probably doing right now, drone on, then, you wrap it up. But that's 100%. I agree with that.
I love, I do love the idea. I worry a little bit. I mean, obviously you're walking them through it and you're, as creative people, we sometimes forget that people aren't always creative and don't get the message. So you just have to be your script has to be pretty tight in terms of delivering whatever those 3 points are that you want to deliver. That's all I think I would say about that. But I love the concept.
Thank you very much for the information. Sorry for my English. My question is, sometimes we have opportunity present by myself, but sometimes you don't have this option and you have to send presentation. How do you think? Should we create 2 different presentation? One for pitching by yourself, another one to send?
I always send my presentations in advance, whether they're going to talk to me or not, because it gets that conversation going. They already have questions coming into it. So if you're at a situation where you only can send the presentation, I would just send your normal one. You might even want to send a scaled back one, because if they're interested, then they're going to want to talk after that. And I'm from Boston, so don't apologize for your accent. If I leave the region, nobody knows what I'm saying.
I got you. That was pretty good. So sort of the same thing. Knowing your audience. What are they looking for? My wife and I were talking about this recently. I'm not a guy who has a resume or a CV, but apparently they're 2 different things. And my wife has very lengthy ones and well accomplished. Mine, not so much. But if I was sending it out, a pitch or presentation, who are you sending it to? Ask them. What are they looking for? Are you looking for the back sheet that has all the numbers? Are you looking for our pricing sheet? Are you looking for that 15-slide pitch deck that I pitched to your competitor last week? There's no harm in asking, because you're having a conversation with them anyways. But again, don't get carried away with having a pitch and a presentation and a book for every single scenario. Put it out there, and again, ask. Send it to them. Is this good enough? You ready to sign up, or are you ready to sell? Are you ready to buy? Whatever it is. So. Yeah, that's a great question.
So to your point, everybody communicates differently. You can pretty much count on two different kinds of communication style, broadly speaking. There are people who like the top line, just give me the top line. What do I need to know? And then give me all the background and maybe I'll read it later. And then there are people who like bottom up. So I need every little brick built. You need to take me through every piece before you get to your punchline. Depending on what we think the client may be wanting, we'll send a 10-page, 10-slide PowerPoint, or for the less detailed, or we'll send the pitch we did both. We were dealing with a law firm and they didn't have a lot of time, but they're lawyers, so they want detail. So we did a 12-page deck for them. And then we also gave them all of the detail spelled out in great minutia. But it's exhausting, right? That's exhausting to do over and over again. So it's a matter of choosing which way you think is best. Some clients, if they have a sense of humor, I will create my slide deck and I do little bubbles, thought bubbles. This is where we're telling you about how great we are. This is where we're telling you how important research is. And I give them the voiceover on top of my PowerPoint.
Nice. Question in the back.
It's more of a tip than a question, because my experience, especially when you're with a client face or a prospect face to face, I always start out by asking them what their agenda is. What would you like to accomplish today? I'd like to accomplish this. Does it line up? Now I can use his or her agenda to do my pitch. I appreciate it.
It's going to, again, I'm going to harp on the education side of stuff, right? We, again, door-to-door sales, it's just, I don't know, acronym, BERC or something. Build rapport, uncover clues, recommend a solution, close. Uncovering clues, right? I'm in here, going to build rapport. How do I know to build rapport? Because I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I see he's got a toy train set on the back of his desk. Great, easy one. And what is your, what are we looking to do today? What's your problem? How can I solve it? And moving on. Yeah, and does it have to even be 45 minutes? Yeah, it's a great, really good point. Any more questions? A lot of good questions. Oh.
Hi, this is Eloisa. It's more of a tip, and I will love your opinion as well. Whenever I cannot have a meeting for the pitch or the presentation, I have been sending videos. So I do a quick video explaining what the pitch, the presentation is. I don't go through the presentation in detail, but just kind of giving them a highlight of this is what you're going to find. This is how it was structured. And then we can set up a meeting to talk more through it in detail. So,
yeah, I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole with sort of what Susan had mentioned, but it's not always, again, we live in a digital world, right? So we're probably not going to print out 15 pages and mail it to somebody. But if that's how we know that they learn and that they have to see it, then that's what we do. But there's all sorts of methodologies. And again, look it up. What are different ways to do a sales pitch or put together your presentation and your product? Again, for us, it's going to a site, it's meeting with that owner or seller or real estate agent, whatever it is, but video or carrier pigeon if need be. So yeah, that's very
well, we
good.
do a lot of webinars for our product, as you would imagine. So we do very similar to what you would saying. If somebody is like, oh, I'd like to see more about your product, but I don't have time, during the day for your presentation. So we'll send the webinar link that way and say, hey, watch it at your convenience. If they never watch it, they weren't interested anyway.
How often are you redoing your webinar? Is it like every year you refresh it?
No, much more than that. We do them probably at least once a quarter.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, once a quarter. How we sell is a little bit different. So our pitches, we have multiple pitches. So we sell through distributors and channel partners, through resellers, value-added resellers. So we're pitching distributors as to why they should distribute our product, resellers as to why they should resell our product, and then end customers why they should use our product. So that's what knowing your audience. We don't want to give the reseller presentation to the end customer talking about how much money they're going to make. Customers don't want to know how much money people are going to make. So it's okay also to have multiple presentations that fit a target audience.
And then something that you guys all hinted at has been a rapport, relationship. So how important it is to, build that rapport, relationship building, especially with the long cycles that you guys have, to be able to,
I mean, people buy from people they like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it. You know what I mean? If you think somebody is not your type of person, you don't want them around. You don't want to deal with them, especially if you have mission critical things that you need done. How to win friends and influence people. I mean, I ask a corny question right off the bat. I want to know where they're from, because, personally, I've driven back and forth across the US a dozen times. I've probably been, if not their town, definitely their state. So get them talking about themselves. That's always the best rapport. And that's the best for a date too, if you want a little tidbit. So I got my wife.
I'd like to pivot. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to, I think for folks in sales, right, we're pretty extroverted to begin with. The rapport building is part of who we are. I wanted to make a comment to folks who are a little bit more introverted, who find themselves in this position because they have to be, but it's not necessarily their first inclination is to reach out to people. Introvert, because again, I work with scientists. Introverts, I think, worry that they have to be excited, like they have to be animated and bubbly or something. And I try to say, instead of being excited about the work, can you be intense about the work? Because if you can show the intensity of your purpose, the intensity with which you believe in what you're doing, just having that little mind shift, I think can alleviate some of the stress that comes around having to pitch when you're not necessarily a pitch person.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have a couple of questions from our digital audience that I'd love to bring to you as well. So first, we have, what is the best way to capture a pitch when building a chatbot?
I'm going to be honest and say that's out of my realm. Can I get back to him with our sales engineer?
Second that.
I'm not actually, say the question again, please.
What is the best way to capture a pitch when building a chatbot?
I think what they're saying is that if someone comes to your website and they don't want to talk to a human and they're interacting with maybe an AI, they pop up on the side. Can I help you right now? So that is, I mean, I would imagine that would be very tough. I X out of those immediately, and then I move on to the next company. So
if it's a chatbot and it's digital, then have AI write it for you. I guess I don't.
I'm not sure I quite understand the question, honestly.
Yeah, maybe capture a lead.
Does it mean for a company that this is what they do?
Okay.
I think
Maybe they can get back to us.
Yeah, let's see if we can get back to it. Another question that we have here is, what are your favorite closes to present at the end of an initial pitch?
Well, for us, it's always about getting that next meeting and leaving them wanting more information to talk to us again, whether it be a technical information, whether it be pricing comparisons, basically leaving a cliffhanger. They don't end of the season cliffhanger. I'll date myself again. Did the Duke boys make the jump in Dukes of Hazzard? What? I'm very old. Leave them wanting more is what it comes down to, and getting that next meeting. That's what we do.
The question was your favorite type of close?
Yeah, how do you close?
Get them to sign on the dotted line and sell or buy the thing is my favorite close. But again, there's different.
I said an initial meeting.
Yeah.
Initial meeting, yeah, to get the close, the sale. I don't want to have to come back. There's different types of closes, alternate choice, tie down, all these things come. Do I use them every single time or on the first meeting or the last meeting? No, but knowing about them, knowing how to use them and when to use them comes from, knowing the ins and outs of sales and the sales process. So that's my favorite type of close, is getting the win.
Definitely bringing you next time.
I'm ready to go.
I try to pepper my conversations with points of curiosity, or points of that I know are going to ask questions. So in my desperately too long presentation this morning, which went totally sideways, you may have noticed that I brought up the issue of naming, right? And so I may not know what your issues are. So I'm creating doubt in your mind about your name, with the intention that when I close, I can say, some questions may have come up for you during this meeting. One of them may have been naming. One of them may have been how long you should prepare for a pitch. So now I have some little hooks that I can use at the end of my close and say, we'd like to talk more about this. Would you like to talk more about this? Which of these are of interest to you, which are not? Great, let's focus on these when we meet next on the 10th.
We have another question.
One of the things people fail to do. One of the things that people fail to do is close as they go along.
Yeah.
So in your comment about, names, I would have tested for understanding or curiosity right when you finish that. Are you happy with your name? Do you find a problem with your name? Oh, great. Let's get back to that. So I think at the end, we shouldn't be closing.
Yeah.
We should be signing.
Mark,
That's great.
what was
Thank
the
you for
movie?
that.
Which one?
You
I've said
referenced?
a bunch of them
Yeah,
that
like
nobody
12
knew.
movies. The sales one.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Glengarry Ross, ABC. Always be closing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
There's someone in the back.
We will get to that in just one second. And I'm just going to ask this one question and then bring you back the microphone. So in the case where you are not going to move forward with a prospect that you have concluded is not a great fit, but still wants to work with you, how do you let them know that you're not going to move forward with them?
I always ask for a referral, and if they know somebody that may, again, this is more higher level general sales, but do you know anybody that may need our product or that I can help serve or help with?
You're rejecting them.
I'm rejecting them. I don't reject anybody, so this doesn't apply to me. Rejecting anybody in my life.
Maybe Mark, that's
Well,
something
sometimes you
closer
have
you.
to. I mean, we do a very specific thing. And if somebody is looking for something that our software product does not do, just tell them, like, that doesn't sound like we can solve your problem. That's not what our product does. It happens to us all the time. You're talking about naming. Our name is Computer Vault. First and foremost, as a virtual infrastructure, we're a cybersecurity product. So we tried to name our product something that people would be like, oh, that sounds like a cybersecurity product. However, we don't sell it as a standalone piece. You can't just buy the cybersecurity portion of the product. It's a whole platform. And sometimes we get folks who just were like, well, we just want the cybersecurity portion. And that's when we have to explain to them, this is what it is. Is this what you're looking for? And if the answer is no, sometimes, like I said, sometimes sounds harsh, but you have to fire the prospect. Now, I don't know in your world, I don't know if you're getting those type of calls who people aren't looking for your product there, or your service. It's really company dependent. If you're selling financial software and your company name is Financial Software Inc., they're not going to call you about manufacturing. But, it can.
Something that we do, although we're on the receiving end, we have partnerships with larger agencies in town. And if they have a client that just is not a fit for them, they will pass them over to us. And I'm mentioning that because maybe this person has somebody that they could pass or recommend because I imagine for the potential customer, it's like, oh crap, now I got to start all over again. I don't know who to choose. I don't know who to trust. And so if this person can make some recommendations and do a soft landing to another agency, or excuse me, another company, that can be very helpful.
I think that's a great solution. We have one more question from the in-person audience, and then we'll wrap for the day.
Hi, so this is like not a question, it's just like a couple of things that I've definitely heard that I wanted to point out. So hi, I'm Jody Tatiana, LCG Brands Consulting. So I judge and I mentor at Techstars, Mass Challenge, CIC. So I'm out there all the time. And these are the things that I really want you guys to be aware of, what you heard, but definitely things that you need to be aware of. You're 10% smarter than the person that's in the room. This is your baby. This is what you do all the time. And so you got to know that when you walk in the room, you are 10% smarter than everyone that walks in the room. So never ever think about the fact that they know more than you. They're coming to you and they're listening to your pitch because you got something that they were really interested in. Number two, don't make it about you. It's about them. You walked in that room and whatever product it is, they want to be engaged with it. But you have to know what's going on in their company, and then intertwine what you're doing and your expertise to make sure that you're understanding it's about them. It's not about you. So your pitch shouldn't be all about you. Your deck, do not ever, 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 ever. Can I say that one more time? Can we all say this? Ever.
Ever.
Do not send your full deck. I look at thousands and thousands and thousands of deck. Then I go to other countries and I talk about how I give advice. I may use your idea, not even realizing I did, because I look at thousands of deck. Become creative in regards of design a small deck, creative deck, make it stand out, but do not give away your secret sauce. You've decided to leave your business. You've decided to leave whatever you're doing. I go to do this one thing, and then you're going to just give your secret sauce in a deck. Insane. Don't ever do it. And then, oh yeah, I love that whole entire thing. Not all customers are yours. Don't be desperate. Fire someone. Okay? Literally fire a customer that's treating you like garbage. Life is way too short. So literally don't be desperate. Go work at Starbucks. They have great insurance, and then just do your thing. But honest to goodness, literally be smart about the customers that you're bringing in. Thank you.
Amazing way to end it, Jody.
It is. Sorry. No. I was going to say something.
I'm so glad you said that last piece, because for the first time we had to fire a client. They were toxic. They were just toxic, and it was destroying the team. And it was really, really, really hard. And then later there was a piece about this person in the Globe about what a horrible person they were.
And again, as we wrap up, I guess the last thing I'll say, which again, credit to Stanley, was really part of your last questioning, is, you can change your product, you can change your pitch and your process, but, be your authentic self. Don't, every time you get turned down or you have a sales partner who may have a different approach than you, don't try to be who they are, or, think it's not working. Be yourself, be authentic to yourself, know that you know your product better than, I guess, 10% of the folks in the room, or 10% smarter. And, and read and continue your education on the sales side of stuff.
Yeah, don't let short-term desperation outweigh long-term opportunities. Yeah, is what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Amazing job. Thank you for the audience. Appreciate it.